Imagine that everything you think you know about life is a mistake. Not a small mistake, not a simple misunderstanding, but a fundamental, cosmic, irreversible error. Now stop and think. I'm not here to sell you an absolute truth. There are no absolute truths. I'm here to share with you a vision, a perspective that challenges the very foundations of what we understand as existence. What you do with it, how you interpret it, is entirely up to you. Don't look for easy answers because there are none here. Don't look for comfort because this is not a refuge for sensitive souls. What you are about to hear is not meant to please you nor to comfort you. It's just an idea that may stay with you or fade away like smoke. But once you hear it, you will never see it the same way again. Now tell me, have you ever felt that life doesn't make sense? I'm not talking about a bad streak. I'm not talking about a moment of sadness. I'm talking about a persistent feeling, an echo in your mind that whispers that everything you do, everything you build, everything you love is destined to disappear. No, I'm not talking about cheap pessimism. I'm not talking about surrender. I'm talking about something much greater, much older than you or me. A vision that challenges centuries of human thought, that doesn't seek to save you, nor convince you that there's something beyond. It's not an ideology, it's not a dogma, it's simply a possibility, a hypothesis about the meaning, or lack of it, in our existence. Think about this. What if God once existed, but not in the way you were taught? What if his greatest act of creation wasn't life, but his own destruction? What if everything we know, you, me, this expanding universe, is nothing more than the scattered fragments of a being who chose to cease existing? What if life is not a manifestation of his will, but the echo of his disappearance? What you are hearing is not a call to the void. It's not a message of hopelessness. It's a perspective, a lens through which you could see the world in a different way. And if you choose to look at it with these eyes, then maybe you will discover something you've never considered before. Get ready, because what comes next is not for everyone. Think about it for a moment. If life were a mistake, if existence were just a residual echo of something that once was but decided to extinguish itself, then what sense does suffering have? Not suffering as punishment, not suffering as a test of strength, but suffering as the only certainty, as the only state inherent to existence itself. We are taught to see pain as a phase, as something that will pass if we fight hard enough. We are told that suffering is the price of success, that struggle makes us grow. But what if it's not like that? What if there is no real growth? What if life is not a process of evolution, but of dissolution? What if we're not building anything, but slowly crumbling from the day we are born? From the moment you breathe for the first time, entropy begins its work. Every cell in your body has only one destiny: to degrade. Every effort you make to move forward is just a delay, a brief pause in the inevitable descent into nothingness. No matter what you do, no matter how much you run, in the end, everything crumbles. And yet, we were sold the idea that we must find a purpose for all of this. But here comes the uncomfortable question. What if the purpose itself is just an illusion created for us to keep moving forward? A defense mechanism to prevent us from looking straight at the true nature of existence. A mirage that stops us from seeing what we truly are. Fragments of something that has already broken. Stop and look around you. Look at the world with cold eyes, without the need to find meaning in it. What you'll see is a cycle without meaning. You are born, you grow, you suffer, you wear down, and you die. Generation after generation, history repeats itself. Great empires fall, names that once filled books fade away, Ideas that once seemed eternal are forgotten. And the same will happen with you. No matter how much you build, no matter how much you leave behind, everything will be reduced to dust. But here's what's truly interesting. Most people can't accept this. The human mind desperately resists the idea that life has no reason for being. We believe in stories, in promises of transcendence, in hidden meanings. We invent gods, ideals, missions in order not to accept the obvious. But what would happen if, for a moment, we let go of the need for purpose? What would happen if we simply accepted existence for what it is? If we understood that there is no glorious destiny waiting for us, only the inevitable end? It's not about hopelessness, nor pessimism. It's about seeing reality as it is, without embellishments, without distractions. It's about understanding that the universe owes us nothing, that life doesn't owe us a debt. It's about accepting that there is no epic story, no redemption, no heroic destiny. There is only this moment, this fraction of time in which we exist before disappearing. And the real question is, can you live with that? Can you look at the void in the face without blinking? Or do you keep desperately searching for a reason that justifies it all? We've been taught to fear nothingness. We've been made to believe that the void is an enemy, that we must fill it with goals, relationships, achievements, with anything that distracts us from its presence. But what if nothingness is not our enemy? What if true peace is not in accumulation, but in dissolution? Think about it. Everything you've been told about happiness revolves around having, building, achieving something more. More money, more recognition, more experiences. But behind that relentless pursuit is an uncomfortable truth. What you're seeking is not happiness, it's the absence of fear. Fear of being forgotten, fear of not having done enough, fear of reaching the end and realizing that nothing made sense. The problem is that happiness is not something you can catch. It's not a destination. It's not a final goal. It's a mirage that slips away as soon as you think you're close. The irony is that the more you chase it, the more it consumes you. And the reason is simple. The happiness, as it was sold to us, is just another distraction mechanism. A desperate attempt to convince us that all of this is worth it. But stop for a moment and ask yourself, what would happen if you stopped chasing? If you stopped looking for meaning in everything? If you accepted that there is no great revelation waiting for you at the end of the road? What remains is something that few are willing to face: absolute freedom. Because when you understand that nothing matters, that everything is a cosmic mistake without purpose, something changes inside you. You stop living for the future. You stop torturing yourself over a past that no longer exists. You begin to see life for what it really is: a fleeting coincidence, a lapse of consciousness in the middle of nothingness. But don't confuse this with destructive nihilism. It's not about falling into despair or giving up. It's about understanding that you don't need a reason to exist, that the universe doesn't owe you an explanation, and that the greatest trap we humans fall into is thinking that without purpose, life loses its value. Nothing could be further from the truth, because when you stop looking for meaning in the external, you realize that the only way to experience existence is from the purest freedom, without the shackles of should be, without the pressure of leaving a legacy, without the burden of an imposed purpose. Look around you. The world is full of people living as if they were immortal, as if they had infinite time to find their purpose, to build their legacy, to correct their mistakes. But what if I told you that the true tragedy of life is not that it ends, but that most people never really live it? They live trapped in the narrative that one day they'll understand it all. One day they'll be happy, one day they'll succeed, one day they'll find meaning. But that one day never comes. Because while they wait for it, time continues its course. And when they finally realize, it's too late. The only thing you truly own is the now. And if now is the only thing that exists, then the question changes. It's no longer, what's the purpose of my life, but how do I want to experience this moment before disappearing? That is the only question that matters. Even when you realize all of this, when you understand that life has no preset mission and that the universe doesn't watch you, you still feel a weight. It's not sadness, it's not hopelessness, it's something deeper, more uncomfortable. It's the inertia of centuries of conditioning. We have been taught to be slaves to meaning. We believe that we must find a reason for everything we do. We believe that without a why, everything falls apart. But what if that very obsession with meaning is what keeps us trapped in a wheel of suffering? Look at the moments when you truly felt free. Not those when you accomplished something important, not those when others applauded you, but those pure moments when you forgot about everything, when you felt the wind on your face without thinking about what's coming next, when you were in an unknown place without asking yourself if you were where you should be, when you laughed without thinking about why you were laughing. Those moments have something in common. They are moments when thought stops, when there is no judgment, no expectation, no need to justify existence. They are moments when life is lived in its purest form, without the burden of narrative. And if you think about it, they are the only real moments, because everything else is a story you tell yourself. Fear, anxiety, guilt are nothing more than the result of interpreting life as if it were a book with a predictable ending. But the reality is there is no script. There is no hidden plot you need to decipher. There is no third act that gives meaning to it all. There is only this moment, and then it disappears. But the human mind can't handle uncertainty. It needs to think that there is a destiny, that there is a right path, that everything that happens is part of a grand plan. Because accepting the opposite would be too terrifying. Accepting that there is no justice, that there is no balance, that there is no guarantee that everything will end well, is the hardest thing of all. That's why, when we face the idea that life is a mistake, the instinctive reaction is to resist. To say, it can't be. There must be something. This must mean something. But have you ever asked yourself why we feel that need? Why can't we simply accept what is without embellishing it with a story? It's because the void is unbearable for a mind that has become accustomed to the illusion of purpose. But here's the curious thing. When you stop fearing it, when instead of running away, you choose to face it, you realize it's not an enemy. It's a blank canvas. The absence of meaning is not a condemnation. It's a freedom. It's the opportunity to do whatever you want, without waiting for permission, without worrying about whether you're fulfilling your destiny. Because if nothing matters, then everything you do has exactly the meaning you choose to give it. And here is where many go wrong. They think that accepting this means falling into apathy, into resignation. But it's the opposite. What could be more liberating than knowing that you don't have to live to fulfill an external expectation? That you don't have to follow a path someone else designed for you? That you can simply exist without apologizing, without seeking recognition, without the burden of being anything other than what you already are? The problem is that most people are not ready for that freedom. They prefer the prison of explanations, the security of a story that makes pain make sense. Because real freedom means responsibility. And there's nothing that frightens humans more than the idea that, at the end of the day, The only person who decides what to do with their life is themselves. The question now is, are you ready for that? Or will you continue waiting for someone else to tell you which path to take? If you truly understand everything we've talked about, if at any point in this video you felt something inside of you stir, then there's something you should know. Something that could change the way you see your own existence. The great paradox of life is this. When you accept that there is no predetermined purpose, when you let go of the need to find meaning in everything, you stop being a prisoner of fear. You stop worrying about the future. You stop carrying the weight of a past that no longer exists. And for the first time, you are truly free. Because if nothing matters, then there's nothing to lose. And when you have nothing to lose, you are unstoppable. Think about it. Most people live terrified of the idea of failing, of disappointing, of not living up to what others expect from them. But if you understand that everything is a cosmic mistake, that each life is just a fleeting flash in an indifferent universe, then that pressure disappears. You no longer have to prove anything to anyone. You no longer have to follow paths that aren't yours. You no longer have to live under the shadow of a story you never asked for. You only have to exist in the most authentic way possible. Look around you. Everything you fear losing at some point will disappear. Everything you now consider important in 100 years will be nothing more than dust. It doesn't matter how high you reach, how much you achieve, how successful you are. In the end, the result is the same for everyone. But here's the unexpected twist. Far from being something depressing, far from being a reason to give up, this is the key to living without fear. Because if everything is going to disappear anyway, why not do exactly what you want? Why not take risks? Why not stop postponing life, waiting for the perfect moment, the right permission, the divine sign that will never come? If the end is inevitable, then the only difference between a wasted life and a well-lived life is what you decide to do with the time you have. And here's the question that defines all of this. What are you going to do with the little time you have left? Most people will choose to ignore this question. They'll distract themselves with routine, with their fears, with the need to fit into a mold they didn't even choose. They'll keep looking for meaning where there is none, waiting for answers that will never come. But some of you, just a few, will see this for what it really is, an opportunity. A reminder that the only responsibility you have is to yourself, that there are no rules beyond those you decide to follow, that life doesn't need meaning to be lived to the fullest. So now it's up to you. If anything I said resonated in your mind, I want you to leave this phrase in the comments. The void doesn't scare me. I want to see how many of you are willing to face it, to let go of the need for meaning, and simply live. And if you want more content that challenges the way you see the world, subscribe. Because we're not here to give you easy answers. We're here to destroy the wrong questions,